Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Russia president provides Indian counterpart with his assessment of war with Ukraine. Former South African President Jacob Zuma sues successor Cyril Ramaphosa. At least 19 persons have been killed as landslide hit holiday campsite in Malaysia. My name is Tunde Idowu. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has given his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi his assessment of the Ukraine conflict via a phone call. In a statement, the Kremlin said the leaders expressed satisfaction with the high level of cooperation in their privileged strategic partnership. And the two leaders further discussed ways for the two countries to work together in areas such as investment, energy, agriculture, transport, and logistics. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also reiterated his call for dialogue and diplomacy as the only way forward in the ongoing conflict with Ukraine. India has become a leading buyer of Russian energy since Western sanctions triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February sharply reduced Western purchases of Russian oil and gas. Staying in Russia President Vladimir Putin will visit Belarus on Monday for talks with his Belarus counterpart Alexander Lukashenko. The Belarus presidency, in a statement, said the pair will hold discussions at the Independence Palace in Minsk during Putin's working visit. Minsk said the pair will hold one-on-one talks as well as wider negotiations with their ministers on Belarusian-Russian integration. It added that the presidents will also give priority to security issues and exchange views on the situation in the region and the world, but did not mention Ukraine. While the two countries have sought to deepen economic and defense cooperation since the invasion began, Lukashenko has repeatedly said he did not intend to send Belarusian troops into Ukraine. Ukraine's power grid operator says it will take longer to repair the national grid and restore power than it did after previous Russian missile attack. The grid operator said there's been the ninth wave of missile strikes on energy facilities. The restoration of power supply may take longer than before. It stated that priority will be given to critical infrastructure facilities like hospitals, water supply facilities, heat supply facilities, and sewage treatment plants. Earlier, the Ukraine Energy Minister, German Galushenko, said 9 Ukrainian power facilities were damaged during the latest missile attack on critical infrastructure. 10 people, including 5 children, have been killed in a fire in an apartment building near Lyon in France. Officials released a statement saying a sizable fire broke out in a 7-story block of flats. 4 people are in critical condition and 10 others reported minor injuries, including 2 firefighters. The fire has been extinguished after it was battled by 170 firefighters. The Minister of Interior, Gerard Damanin, said the cause of the fire is still unknown and praised the work of the firefighters who rescued people in extremely difficult conditions. He added that the children who died were all aged between 3 and 15. In Africa, South Africa's former President Jacob Zuma says he has launched a private prosecution against his successor, Cyril Ramaphosa. The announcement was made by the Jacob Zuma Foundation, which said President Ramaphosa was charged for serious crimes but did not specify the alleged offense. It added that the crimes carry a sentence of 15 years imprisonment. In a response on Twitter, President Ramaphosa accused Mr. Zuma of abuse of legal processes. He termed the charges completely spurious and unfounded. The announcement comes as the ruling African National Congress ANC begins its national elective conference to decide whether Ramaphosa will stand for next president in the nation's next election in 2024. Two opposition Senegalese lawmakers have been arrested for the alleged assault of their pregnant colleague in parliament earlier this month. It follows the chaos that erupted during a budget debate in parliament in scenes that were televised. The video of the fight was shared widely on social media. Massata Samb is said to have slapped the female lawmaker, Ami Ndaye Ginbi, after she scoffed at him during the debate. She threw a chair at him before another lawmaker, Mamadou Nyang, kicked her in the stomach after she was pushed to the ground. Both Mr. Samb and Mr. Nyang have been detained and are charged with voluntarily causing hurt. They are expected to appear in court on Monday.
Je suspends la séance. La séance est suspendue.
Mozambique's parliament has approved a bill legalizing the involvement of local forces in the fight against jihadists in northern Cabo Delgado province. Local militias have been assisting the army and its allies from Rwanda and the Southern African Regional Bloc in the fight against jihadists in the province. Defense Minister Cristóvão Chume, who presented the bill in parliament, admitted that the Mozambican army was not strong enough to tackle jihadist activities alone. He said there was an urgent need to establish local forces to strengthen the army in combating and containing the spread of jihadist incursions. He said they will protect communities, settlements, and public and private infrastructure, similar to strategies used in other jurisdictions where national security was compromised. The local forces are made up of volunteer former combatants. At least 1,700 people fleeing violence between armed factions in South Sudan's northern Upper Nile state have crossed into Sudan. This was reported by the state-owned Sudanese news agency SUNA. UNICEF had earlier said violence between armed groups in Upper Nile state that started in August was forcing thousands of women and children to flee their homes amid reports of rising civilian deaths, injuries, and abduction. The clashes have since spread to Jonglei and Unity State. On Wednesday, the UN said that the violence had killed at least 166 people. Burkina Faso has recalled its ambassador in Ghana for consultations after President Nana Akufo-Addo accused the neighboring country of inviting mercenaries from the Russian firm Wagner. The Burkinabe State Information Agency said Ghana's ambassador to Burkina Faso has also been summoned for a meeting at the Foreign Affairs Ministry. President Akufo-Addo made the claim during a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on the sidelines of the U.S.-Africa Summit in Washington. The possibility of Burkina Faso using the Wagner Group to fight jihadists in the country has been the subject of debate for several months and prompted warnings from Western powers. President Akufo-Addo described the development as distressing.
Yesterday, I was part of an extremely useful meeting with the people from the Congress to come and talk about security matters. I believe that, Madam, you were there, you were part of the meeting. And its significance for us. And I think that beyond everything, that is a matter that I want to urge upon you. Today, Russian mercenaries are on our northern border. Burkina Faso has now entered into an arrangement to go along with Mali in employing the Wagner forces there. I believe a mine in southern Burkina has been allocated to them as a form of payment for their services. Prime Minister of Burkina Faso in the last 10 days has been in Moscow.
Libya's Prime Minister Abdul Hamid al-Daiba says his administration was involved in the transfer of Abu Aguila Mohamed Massoud, a Lockerbie bombing suspect, to the United States last week. Al-Daiba, in a televised speech, said that it was imperative for his government to cooperate with Interpol, who had issued an arrest warrant for him for the sake of the country's interest and stability. He added that the extradition was lawful and that his government was simply cooperating with an international judicial framework to extradite accused citizens. Al-Daiba provided no hard evidence for naming Massoud as the bomb maker for the mid-air bombing of a Pan Am flight that killed 270 people. The bombing helped turn the government of Libya's former leader Muammar Gaddafi into an international pariah before he was overthrown in a 2011 revolution and killed. India says tests carried out on Indian meat cough syrup linked to the death of nearly 70 children in the Gambia have shown no contamination. The World Health Organization had earlier said initial tests of 4 products found unacceptable levels of potentially toxic chemicals. The children died from acute kidney failure after taking the medicine produced by Maiden Pharmaceuticals and exported to the Gambia. Maiden Pharmaceuticals says it adheres to internationally recognized quality control standards, but some of its products have failed to meet national or state-level quality control standards in India. India produces a third of the world's medicine, mostly in the form of generic drugs. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
Like a TV station that breaks the barriers of your TV screen. A TV station that brings infotainment to your forefront, breaking the conceptual fourth wall. Giving you television that is personal to you and your everyday life. Indigenous broadcasting for every man, cutting across the shackles of age, class, and language. With the best of equipment in digitized broadcasting. At Western Spring Television, your television experience has never been this magical.
We'll bring you the best in news and programs, breaking news to you as it drops from where it drops.
Talk shows that keep you glued to your seats. Sports programs not void of in-depth analysis. Entertainment programs cutting across all ages. Political analysis with all its accompanying controversies. Social responsibility because we care. Western Nigeria gave us our first feel of television. Western Spring Television is taking us to the next level.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.